Andrew is singly responsible for the distribution of funds to fund arts practice in this state, and he will account for himself.
I do feel a little bit like the odd one out here. I wasn't going to get up and suggest that the Department of Culture and the Arts is an artist-run initiative. We do employ a number of artists, such as myself, but we don't pretend that we run the show. And as such, I suppose that I represent the admin from your lovely Make Art, Not Admin t-shirts. Don't worry, I'm not taking them personally. So I'll introduce myself. I'm the project officer for visual arts, craft and writing at the Department of Culture and the Arts currently. As of this week, I'm also job sharing with Ali Doherty, who is available Monday, Thursday and Friday. I'm available Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you have any questions about arts funding, you can contact either of us. The Department of Culture and the Arts, for any of you who don't know, and I hope that you do know, is the state government body that does provide art funding to individuals and organisations. What we don't traditionally support terribly well, maybe I shouldn't say that. As anyone knows me, I'm a famously indiscreet and clumsy public speaker, so I was absolutely thrilled to see some of my colleagues here today, and the fact that I'll be recorded. ARIs have traditionally fallen between two stools in terms of DCA funding. We provide project funding for individuals and groups to set up and perform a discrete project, something that has a beginning and an end. For an organisation that wants to run a program of events or something like that, that then becomes difficult for them to receive any kind of consistent funding. And what we see is, I think as Kate was mentioning with some of the exhibitions that get DCA funding, you end up with one moderately well-funded exhibition out of a calendar of 12, when the others just need to find other ways of funding themselves. So that means that portions of money need to be segregated off for things like a show or a book or something like that. The other way that we provide funding to the arts sector, the visual arts sector, is through organisational funding for bodies like the Institute of Contemporary Arts and the Fremantle Arts Centre. That's not necessarily a terribly good fit for ARIs either. As Kate was talking about, the capacity for ARIs to shapeshift, to be malleable and put in and change what they do, locking them into an organisational structure and locking them into, it's often a triennial contract arrangement where they're funded for 3 years, isn't always a good fit either. The Museum of Natural Mystery had a program, it was a 12-month program, and that was it. For them to enter in a contract with a state government department, that would mean that they would need to continue delivering on that for 3 years or more, isn't always the best outcome. So, and that also involves the things that the requirements that you need to meet to be considered an organisation, which sometimes can be more than artists necessarily want to become involved in. But in the same sense, the department recognises the importance of artist-run initiatives for our state, increasingly even more so. We're going through a period of change in the landscape of the visual arts sector. I don't think we should kid ourselves. Internally, we're looking at ways that we can accommodate and support this changing landscape. And in the short term, we'd like to see ways that we can support artist-run initiatives. So, in that sense, we're launching a artist-run initiative project funding program, which will provide grants for ARIs. The round is open now. It closes on April 16. It's a trial run. We don't know how it's going to work. We're trying to be as flexible as possible, which will probably create a situation where we encounter a lot of problems with that. But so if you've got any ideas, don't sit on them, because this might not be on offer again next year, certainly, you know, unlikely in this form. And I can go through the process with you about what you can apply for and how you might structure a grant application. It'd be great if you do have ideas, you're welcome to contact me. I've got my business cards there, or my colleague Ali. I might just talk a little bit more loosely about what was the thinking behind putting together this program rather than talking about the ins and outs of the application process. The round is open to both new and existing ARIs. With the sole caveat that for existing ARIs we were interested in then creating something in addition to their regular programming, something above and beyond what they do. A little bit of the thinking behind that, and I'm aware that that's probably frustrating for ARIs that are running and probably has shown me a little bit, is we'd like to see something new in the city. If we can, you know, open another space for exhibition for artists, I think that would be really exciting. We can see ARIs having the capacity to become more ambitious and do more of what they're doing already that makes them such great contributors to our art scene. That would be fantastic. The funding is also capped. The grants are for a maximum of $20,000 each. That doesn't mean they have to be for $20,000. If you'd like to put in one for 4 or 5, you're more than welcome to. That means we can fund more people. As most people here will tell you, that's not enough to run an ARI on, but that's quite more or less the thinking about it. Listening to Anna and Kate and Shannon talk about how they started up their organisations. They were started without any funding. They were running on a shoestring. And I think that's actually something that's very important for ARIs. I think that that ability to build a community that supports the organisation, the need to logistically find ways, and often innovative and quite interesting ways of supporting what you do, is a really valuable component of an ARI. If you received ample and consistent government funding, then your lovely t-shirts probably wouldn't have ever happened. And so I think in that sense, this funding should be considered an opportunity to kickstart something. It's not something that I'd hope that people would see that they could rely on and say, well, you know, we don't need to stage an art auction, we don't need to put studios into our space and build that community, or ever stage any kind of crowdfunding or co-working spaces, because we know next year we'll just apply for the Department of Culture and the Arts Fund Initiative funding. I think, as was mentioned in some of these talks here, state government funding, grant funding is not something that can necessarily be relied upon. But increasingly something that can be relied upon is the support of a community and the support of a network of artists working together to create these things and keep them running. The focus in today's conversations have largely been on exhibition spaces, gallery spaces. We've tried to keep the definition of what an ARI is as loose as possible when it comes to applying for these things. It may be another exhibition space, it may be a gallery space, it could be studios, it could be, say, a journal like Discipline magazine, it could be a web platform that has a YouTube channel showing documentaries of artists' work, it could be mixtapes of sound artists distributed on analog cassettes. We've tried to keep that as open as possible. I suppose the rubric under which I've been thinking about it and talking about it with people is the idea that it is an ongoing platform for the dissemination of artists' work. And obviously it's artist run, so if you're an artist then that helps a bit as well. But we're not drawing the line there either. It could be a writer's run initiative or a theorist run initiative. But we're definitely focusing on the visual arts for this project. Even my notes are indiscreet. Well, I can't say that. Settle that. And again, scale can be variable as well. We're not necessarily looking to fund another long-term gallery. It doesn't need to be operating on the model of Paper Mountain or Moana that is looking at longevity and looking at lasting for a certain period of time. It can be something that has a niche audience or that is of smaller scale. But the only thing I'd bear in mind is this will be a competitively assessed grant round. So it will pay off, I think, to be ambitious and to actually pitch something that is exciting and will grab the attention of the panel as well, because you'll be coming up against other people who've got great ideas and big ambitions, things that they want to happen. Oh, I've got to run on the notes. I think that that's mainly what I wanted to talk about in launching this program, and I'm going to hang around during lunch and answer any questions, and I'll be sitting here as well if you can talk about it some more. But yeah, thank you.